We're in it for it now. Well, before this begins, I've been informed that we have about 2 episodes left. So this is going to be the shortest season out of all of them. Normally it's standard for Ray Donovan to have 12 episodes going on, but I don't know, I think they cut this one short, either because of scheduling things with the whole film or everything, or they're trying to find one way for them to jump the shark. They already did it in the 5th season with, Ray committing suicide off of a building in New York, landing in the lake as you just see his body floating in the sea. But that's where it ends. Anyways, if this is going to be another one of those jump the shark situations, I will be surprised. Well, anyways, today's episode we have Passport and a Gun. Why is it called that? We'll find out in this episode. So, following last week's episode, Jim is taken back to his home when a attempted murder happens, but it fails and the guy's arrested. But who is this guy? We'll find out later on. For the moment being, Molly wakes up to Ray as he's making breakfast for her, and Ray essentially just tells her about his past, how he sort of came to working with Jim, and kind of sort of the motivation on why he came who he is. Because if we remember last week's episode, we found out about his motivation. But that chat that young Ray had with Jim, that was his one-way ticket into what he is today. A fixer. Which is a surprise. But later on, Molly is called about there being an attempted murder on behalf of whoever this assassin is, which will be answered later on who it is. Daryl winds up hiding his stash in another motel in another area. He calls Jasmine saying, "Hey babe, got some money, just grab my weapon and we'll get out of here." And of course, that's kind of where our episode title comes in. Passport and a Gun, because those are the 2 things that he winds up asking Jasmine to get. So, fun times when you have an episode title referencing some sort of event or song or whatever. Something that occurs in the story, like how in Never Gonna Give You Up they play that song at the near end of the episode, or how about an episode a few weeks ago called An Irish Lullaby, where the episode name is named after a song. So that's kind of fun when you get references to certain things in TV shows. Something about those just gives me a little bit of a giggle, you know? Well, anyways, back to the story. Ray returns to his office to see someone sleeping there, which turns to be Smitty, as Ray winds up asking him to go on a coffee run, and then a call comes in from a detention center, to which we found out that assassin was Gary. Oh yeah, Gary O'Malley, vouching for whatever was going on in the past, where there was the murder that Daryl had with the guy there being security camera footage, so we'll have to go after that in another moment. So that leaves one task for Ray to visit. But for the moment being, as Ray heads outside, Ears, whose name is Declane, thank goodness for the subtitle gods. But it's probably going to be easy to remember him as Ears, just because of, you know. Anyways, Ears sits outside, demanding the stock back from Daryl, and bringing up a piece of Ray's past and all that, to which Ray's not fazed by it, and enters his car. Bunchy is tasked to rent a car and sneak out at Daryl's place, wherever the hell Daryl's at. Well, that kind of gets interrupted later on. But, proceeding onwards, so you remember the female that Terry rode with outside, or at least she told stopped him from sort of diving himself in the rake with the rocks in his pockets? Well, she is on her deathbed. And her name is Dolores, by the way. But Dolores goes on and talks to him about a valuable heirloom. I always don't know how to pronounce this word right. Heirloom. But it's heirloom. You got an H, at least how I spell it in here, H-E-I-R, as hair, but it sounds more like heirloom. English is a fun word to study. Anyways, Dolores tells Terry about a very valuable heirloom that the shaman is keeping secret and locked away from her. An emerald necklace that she would like to hand down to her next of kin. But the shaman has it locked away. But the shaman is being a dirty little liar and not giving to her demands to ask for the necklace back. He's just like, oh, sorry, we lost that necklace a while back, so yeah, you can't have it anymore. So that is the one thing that Terry's gonna do in this episode, is try and get her precious heirloom back, so that before she dies, she can give it to her next of kin. So Ray arrives to the convention center for Gary and him to chat at, which Gary catches Ray up, what's been going on, how Mickey basically electrocuted his relative in order just to get some tapes from him, and all that fun stuff. But then it flashbacks to Ray, a very young Jim, whom works for, a very young Ray Donovan, I say in his teen years, as he works for Jim Sullivan as, at least from what I see at this point, a loan shark. Yeah, a loan shark. Because in his first steps, he tries to retrieve some money from a guy, refuses to let him in, goes around back, kicks the window glass open, beats him up for the money, but also takes a special piece of sports memorabilia for Jim. Fun times. But I guess with Sullivan, we now know why Ray is into this, fixer business. Again, goes back to what happened last week. Why Ray hated Mickey so much. That was an unanswered question for a long time until this season, and the same could be said for how Ray became a fixer. All of it is answered in this season. I'm very happy that we get those answers. I feel I feel very glad, if I'm to be honest. Well, let's jump forward into the present time. So, Ears sneaks in and awaits a time to meet Daryl up. From there, Jasmine, or at least Ears, winds up sneaking into Daryl's apartment and hides just as soon as Jasmine goes into his place and grabs his stuff, the passport and the gun. La la la. Title reference. And basically this is where Ears is going to follow Jasmine to where he is currently hiding. So, fun times ahead, I guess. With that said, Ray breaks into, or at least he gets back into the home of where Daryl committed the murder for the tapes and everything, now being blocked out by police tape. Ray sneaks in, finds a security camera which shows Daryl murdering the guy, and Ray deletes that evidence so we don't have to see any more of that. We then jump forward to where, actually early on, Terry calls up Bunchy to help him with the shaman. And basically Bunchy decides to give in and help Terry out with his little emerald business. So both of them ride to the location of the shaman. They walk right inside. Terry goes up front with him, or at least the shaman, and just starts beating him, asking for the emerald because he knows he's a dirty little liar. Which, fun, you know? So, beats him up for the necklace. They wind up retrieving it successfully, and I guess from that point, that's the last we're ever going to see of him. Or something. I don't know. So, Smitty, as we find out, is actually bugged. Yeah, Smitty is bugged. He's got a little wire under his shirt. Because it turns out, Detective Perry is somewhere listening in. But where? Well, we won't find out till later on, but they'll let him know. So, onwards from that, Ears arrives to the motel where he winds up telling Daryl that if he gets the stock back, he'll give him $2 million. Cash. To which Daryl accepts. And for them to meet an hour or so later on. Anyways, proceeding onwards from that, Gary breaks out, or at least he barks out, because Ray can't say that the evidence has been deleted, but he barks out over after the previous stuff from Season 5, you know, Abby being dead, what Bridget did to, or at least what Ray did to Bridget, and, well, technically Smitty, which we wouldn't know who Smitty is till later on. But yeah, he barks at Ray for what he's done in the past and goes and asks Molly to find some tapes based around 1987. Why that year? We don't know. But we get another flashback to Ray giving the jersey to Jim. Fun to pronounce English with a jaw. But he gives the jersey to Jim To which Jim trades that off for that cliche image of, I don't remember the title of the art piece, but it's the dogs playing poker and everything and all that. So a trade-off for that, and Jim winds up seeing Ray going out of the house, and Gary is just in disgust that Ray is working for him. And it is very disappointing, but what can you do? But proceeding onwards with the Daryl and Ears incident. They arrive, Ears gives them the money, but turns out that they're not real bills, they're all fake. Like in Goonies with the $50 bill, you know? But anyways, he fakes the money and demands to Daryl to give him the stocks, to which at first they follow the demand, but Jasmine sneaks in, shoots the henchman, they try to get away, but Ears winds up shooting at the car, and Jasmine is shot and murdered in the forehead. So, that's another character out of commission. I mean, she didn't even last long this season. And I've seen characters that last longer in seasons, you know? But, proceeding onwards to the near end of all of this, Molly sneaks in and retrieves those 2 tapes from 1987. Daryl is completely furious. Ray tries to get a hold of Dr. Ammett for another appointment, but doesn't answer. Smitty decides to sleep in his office, but as Ray walks out, he sees a van, and then he thinks for a moment, adds 1 and 1 together, and he finds out Smitty has been bugged this whole time. And with Ray's suspicions being right, he barges outside, goes to the van, and Detective Perry steps in and winds up arresting Ray. To which Ray ends the episode with, "You wanna talk? Let's talk." And that's the end of the episode. That'll do it for Passport and a Gun. It's good that we finally get to see more motivation on how Ray became who he is today. I like the fact that the arc with Terry and the shaman are complete. It's going to be interesting to see what will happen to Ray in the next episode next week, I think. Yeah, there is an episode next week, and I'm not going to take a 2-week break. So that'll be fun to see what happens next week. It'll be intriguing to see where our story goes from here, you know? Just to see how all of this turns out in the end. Though I'm curious about what will Daryl do. I mean, pretty much he's just, at the end, like I mentioned, Daryl, after finding out that his girlfriend had been shot and killed, basically we see him driving down and just in a furious state, like he doesn't care what gets in his way. He wants to get revenge on Ears for this. He wants revenge. He'll find a way to get it, but how? I don't know. But yeah, another fantastic episode. More motivation. Terry and the shaman get even. At least Terry gets even with the shaman. Ought to be interesting to see how Ray handles Detective Perry among the others. And that's really all I can say about this one. So let me know what you thought of this episode if you have seen it, but very informative, fun, suspenseful. Really liked it. It was a big shock that Smitty was forced to be bugged to try and get all this hard evidence for Detective Perry, which, well, I'm surprised it took a long while for Ray to find that out, because I'm not sure that white van was parked out his office the whole time. I may need to watch some of those parts again, but I think that white van was outside his studio the whole time. I don't know. Whatever the case may be, look forward to next week's episode. It's weird that it's going to be, at least, it's going to be a 10-episode season. Like, that's HBO levels of a season. I don't know whether or not it's because they want to cut the season short or whatever, like they kind of did with the second to last season of Game of Thrones, or something else, but yeah, it's going to be quite suspenseful to see what happens in the next episode. But yeah, see you next week, and it's going to be sad in 2 weeks once Ray Donovan comes to its 10th and final episode for the season. I just hope they don't end the series with this. Who knows if there's more stories to be told in this one? But the answer will lie within next week's episode. So, I'll see you guys later for that.